Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. Roman Reigns' OG bloodline has finally got its fifth member in the form of CM Punk. Paul Heyman made a stunning return on a recent episode of SmackDown, revealing the best in the world as the final addition to the team. Punk's arrival shook the entire venue, leaving fans in disbelief at the unexpected pairing of Roman Reigns and CM Punk on the same team. With this new alliance, the OG bloodline is now stronger than ever, ready to face Solo Sikoa's faction. In this article, we will explore 3 potential consequences the OG bloodline could face for teaming up with the best in the world at Survivor Series War Games. 3. Seth Rollins might cost OG Bloodline at War Games. The OG Bloodline approached Seth Rollins twice to join them as their 5th member. However, the Visionary rejected the offer both times, making it clear that he did not intend to align with Roman Reigns. Additionally, on a recent episode of SmackDown, Roman Reigns voiced his decision against considering Seth Rollins as their 5th member for War Games. Rollins not only has a long-standing rivalry with the head of the table, but CM Punk is also one of his biggest enemies. With Roman and Punk now teaming up, it's possible that the Visionary could make a surprise appearance to sabotage the OG bloodline. Seth might launch an attack on CM Punk, who is now part of the faction for War Games, potentially causing Roman's team to lose the double ring structure match. This interference could reignite the heated rivalry between Rollins and Punk on Monday Night Raw, while also laying the groundwork for a future clash between Rollins and Reigns. 2. The Rock might be angered at Roman Reigns due to his recent alliances. Another potential consequence of Roman Reigns teaming up with CM Punk is the possibility of angering The Rock. The final boss likely wouldn't be pleased with Reigns' recent decision to team up with Cody Rhodes at Bad Blood, especially since Cody is one of the Bloodline's biggest enemies. Now, with Reigns bringing CM Punk into the fold, The Rock could view this alliance as yet another betrayal of the family's core values. This tension might lead to the People's Champion turning against Reigns and the OG bloodline, setting up a dramatic betrayal. Such a move could pave the way for an epic showdown between The Rock and Roman Reigns, further escalating the stakes for the Bloodline saga. 1. Reigns might be potentially losing Paul Heyman to CM Punk. CM Punk is also a Paul Heyman guy, which is why the best in the world has been convinced to align with the original tribal chief for the War Games match. However, if conflicts arise between Punk and Reigns, Paul Heyman's position could become a fascinating point of contention. One potential consequence of the OG bloodline teaming with Punk is the risk of losing Paul Heyman. If the special counsel shows even the slightest favoritism toward Punk, Reigns will unlikely tolerate it. Furthermore, if Reigns displays poor behavior or mistreatment toward Heyman, it could lead to Heyman abandoning the head of the table to align with CM Punk instead. This is due to the Wiseman believing the Second City Saint as someone who will appreciate his efforts and treat him better. The announcement of Roman Reigns and CM Punk teaming at WWE Survivor Series War Games has electrified the WWE universe, sparking intrigue and controversy. Though this alliance promises blockbuster moments, it could also lead to significant consequences for Roman Reigns, the undisputed tribal chief. Let's explore 3 potential repercussions of this unexpected partnership. 1. The crumbling of the bloodline. Roman Reigns' dominance as the leader of the bloodline has been central to his record-breaking title reign. However, teaming with CM Punk, known for his lone wolf persona and anti-authority attitude, could send shockwaves through his faction. Tension with Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. The bloodline has already shown cracks, with Jey Uso leaving and Solo Sikoa's loyalty being called into question. If Roman brings in an outsider like Punk, it could be seen as a betrayal by his cousins. Solo and Jimmy might interpret it as a lack of trust in their abilities to stand by his side in War Games. This could lead to Solo Sikoa rebelling, potentially attacking Roman mid-match or aligning with Jimmy in a coup against their tribal chief. A new challenger emerges. If the bloodline disintegrates because of this alliance, Roman's days as undisputed champion could be numbered. Jimmy Uso might step up as a challenger, citing Roman's decision to side with an outsider as evidence of his unfitness to lead. This internal war could pave the way for other stars, such as Cody Rhodes or LA Knight, to finally dethrone him, ending his historic reign. 2. Losing the trust of the WWE Universe. Roman Reigns has worked tirelessly to balance being a dominant heel while maintaining respect from the WWE Universe. However, teaming with CM Punk could alienate a significant portion of his fanbase. Fans' polarized reactions. While CM Punk's return has been celebrated by some, it has also been met with skepticism due to his controversial exit from AEW. Aligning with Punk might make Roman seem opportunistic, aligning himself with a divisive figure purely for the sake of strategy. The WWE Universe could perceive this move as Roman prioritizing his reign over loyalty to his family or the fans. Damage to Roman's legacy. Roman has built his legacy on being the head of the table, a leader who elevates those around him. Teaming with Punk, a known instigator, could tarnish that image. If things go awry at War Games, history might not remember Roman as the tribal chief who led his faction to victory, but as the man who let his ego blind him, leading to his downfall. 3. The return of old foes. Perhaps the most dangerous consequence of Roman teaming with CM Punk is the doors it opens for old rivalries to reignite. WWE thrives on long-term storytelling, and Punk's return brings a host of unresolved feuds back into the spotlight. Seth Rollins' revenge. One of the most vocal critics of Punk's return has been Seth Rollins. If Punk joins forces with Roman, it could reignite Rollins' disdain, not only for Punk but also for his former Shield brother. Rollins could use this as fuel to intensify his rivalry with Roman, potentially targeting him after War Games. This might lead to a heated feud for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, threatening Roman's reign. The Rock's retaliation. The Rock has yet to address Roman's claim as the true tribal chief on WWE television. Teaming with CM Punk, an outspoken critic of Hollywood stars like The Rock, could be the catalyst for Dwayne Johnson to finally confront Roman. The Rock might see this partnership as Roman straying too far from his roots, forcing a showdown to determine the real tribal chief. This scenario would undoubtedly be a dream match, but it could also mean the end of Roman's dominance if The Rock emerges victorious. Brock Lesnar's resurgence. Brock Lesnar, Roman's longtime rival, thrives on chaos. If War Games spirals into a spectacle of betrayal and unfinished business, the Beast incarnate could seize the opportunity to re-enter the title picture. A post-War Games ambush by Lesnar could leave Roman vulnerable and set the stage for yet another epic clash. How War Games could play out. The match dynamics. Survivor Series. War Games promises to be an intense battleground, with Roman and Punk teaming against a faction like Judgment Day or another high-stakes rival team. Throughout the match, the dynamics between Roman and Punk could dictate the outcome. Trust issues. Punk's history of going rogue might lead Roman to second-guess his decisions mid-match. Miscommunication could result in costly mistakes, weakening their team. Ego clash. Roman's desire to assert dominance as the tribal chief might clash with Punk's need to prove himself after a tumultuous few years in wrestling. Post-match fallout. Even if Roman and Punk secure a victory, the aftermath could be equally explosive. Punk could claim credit for the win, undermining Roman's leadership. Conversely, if they lose, Roman might blame Punk, leading to a heated confrontation and potentially setting up a singles feud. Conclusion. Roman Reigns teaming with CM Punk at Survivor Series, War Games is a gamble with high stakes. While it promises to deliver a spectacle that fans won't soon forget, it could also lead to significant consequences for Roman's career, legacy, and standing within WWE. The Bloodline's loyalty could crumble, leaving Roman vulnerable to internal betrayals. The WWE Universe might turn on him, tarnishing his carefully built image. Old rivals could resurface, using this alliance as an excuse to challenge his dominance. Whether Roman emerges from War Games unscathed or faces a cascade of repercussions, one thing is certain: his partnership with CM Punk will change the landscape of WWE forever. Fans will be on the edge of their seats, waiting to see whether Roman's gamble pays off, or whether it leads to his ultimate downfall. After CM Punk, another Paul Heyman guy to return to WWE at Survivor Series, War Games 2024? Chances explored Paul Heyman made his earth-shattering return on the most recent episode of WWE SmackDown. The Wiseman didn't come back alone, as he brought CM Punk with him as the fifth member of the OG Bloodlines War Games team. Fans had already speculated about Punk's return alongside Heyman, given the Second City Saints' history as a Paul Heyman guy. However, Punk's return has sparked speculation about another Paul Heyman guy potentially making a comeback at Survivor Series, War Games 2024, which is none other than Brock Lesnar. The Beast Incarnate has been absent from WWE for a considerable time. His last appearance was at SummerSlam 2023, where he suffered a loss to Cody Rhodes. Recently, there have been subtle hints that indicate Lesnar's return could be on the horizon, though nothing has been confirmed yet. Survivor Series, War Games 2024 marks the final premium live event of the year for WWE, making it a prime setting for surprises and shocking twists. This leaves the door open for Lesnar's return, even if the chances remain slim. If Brock Lesnar does return, it could unfold similarly to CM Punk's shocking comeback at the end of last year's PLE. A Lesnar return would indeed inject even more intrigue into the ongoing storyline involving Paul Heyman, given Lesnar's history as a Heyman guy. It will be fascinating to see how events unfold at the impending PLE and whether Brock Lesnar delivers an earth-shattering comeback or not. Big Authority Name has recently posted a Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman photo. Another factor fueling speculation about Brock Lesnar's return is a recent cryptic post from Raw General Manager Adam Pearce. Pearce posted a picture on his official Twitter, X, account featuring himself, Paul Heyman, and the Beast Incarnate. The post had no caption, which led fans to speculate and come up with various theories, many of them believing Lesnar could finally be making his return. However, Pearce later posted multiple other cryptic updates, leading some fans to question whether the original post was really significant. As of now, there is no confirmed timeline for Lesnar's return. In fact, recent reports have cast doubt on the likelihood of Brock returning anytime soon. This leaves the situation surrounding the Beast Incarnate uncertain. Only time will tell when the legendary star will make his comeback to the Stamford-based promotion. If Survivor Series isn't the event for his return, Raw's Netflix debut or the Royal Rumble 2025 could be more realistic locations for Lesnar's comeback. Survivor Series, War Games 2024 is just around the corner, and with CM Punk's earth-shattering return to WWE at Crown Jewel, fans are buzzing about who might be next to follow in his footsteps. If there's one man in the wrestling world who can make waves by bringing back iconic talent, it's Paul Heyman. Known for being the mastermind behind some of WWE's biggest stars, Heyman's list of protégés is nothing short of legendary. With Survivor Series adopting the high-stakes War Games format, speculation is rife about whether another Paul Heyman guy could make their shocking return. Here, we dive into the possibilities and the implications of another Heyman guy entering the fold during one of WWE's most anticipated events of the year. The context: CM Punk's monumental return. CM Punk's return to WWE after a decade-long absence sent shockwaves through the wrestling world. The best in the world showed up unexpectedly at Crown Jewel, aligning himself with Paul Heyman once more and reigniting old rivalries with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Punk's return has not only bolstered WWE's ratings but also sparked a resurgence of interest in the Heyman ecosystem. Heyman's ability to bridge the past with the present has always been his forte. With Punk now firmly entrenched in a storyline involving the Bloodline and Rollins, WWE seems poised to maximize its use of nostalgia while building compelling new narratives. But why stop at Punk? The candidates: who could be next? If another Paul Heyman guy were to return, the list of potential names is tantalizing. Let's examine a few prominent figures who could electrify the Survivor Series Stage 1. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is the quintessential Paul Heyman guy. While Lesnar has been a dominant force in WWE for decades, he's recently taken a step back from the spotlight. However, a return at Survivor Series would make perfect sense, especially if Punk finds himself outnumbered in the War Games structure. Lesnar's brute strength paired with Punk's cunning strategy could create a dream team dynamic. Imagine Lesnar stepping into War Games as Punk's enforcer, decimating the Bloodline or Seth Rollins' faction in the process. Lesnar's return would also serve as a stark reminder that Heyman's influence extends far beyond any single superstar. Likelihood: moderate. Lesnar's sporadic schedule makes this less likely, but WWE could pull off a one-night-only appearance for maximum impact, too. Ryback. Once upon a time, Ryback was one of Heyman's most promising protégés. While his WWE run ended on a sour note, the wrestling landscape has shifted dramatically. A return for Ryback, especially with Heyman in his corner, could be the perfect opportunity for the big guy to rewrite his WWE legacy. Ryback's physicality could make him a valuable asset in the War Games match. Picture him targeting someone like Solo Sikoa or Drew McIntyre, reigniting his reputation as a wrecking ball. However, WWE would need to navigate the potential backlash from fans, given Ryback's controversial history on social media. Likelihood: low. Ryback's strained relationship with WWE makes this a long shot, but stranger things have happened in professional wrestling. 3. Cesaro. Claudio Castagnoli. Cesaro, now a major star in AEW as Claudio Castagnoli, was briefly aligned with Heyman during his WWE tenure. While the partnership didn't last long, Heyman's endorsement of Cesaro as the Swiss Superman left a lasting impression. Cesaro's technical skill and strength would make him a formidable addition to any War Games team. A surprise appearance by Cesaro at Survivor Series could also serve as a statement about WWE's willingness to mend fences with former stars. His return would generate immense buzz, especially if he confronted Punk or Rollins in the process. Likelihood: moderate. Cesaro's AEW contract could complicate matters, but WWE has proven its ability to negotiate when the stakes are high. 4. Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's time as a Paul Heyman guy may have been unofficial, but the chemistry between the two was undeniable. Joe's intensity, combined with Heyman's promo skills, made him a standout during his WWE run. Currently thriving in AEW and ROH, Joe remains one of the most respected wrestlers in the business. If Joe were to return to WWE, Survivor Series, War Games would be an ideal stage. His brutal style and credibility would make him a natural fit for the chaos of War Games. Moreover, a confrontation with someone like Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes could be a dream scenario. Likelihood: moderate. Joe's AEW commitments might be a hurdle, but WWE has shown it can lure top talent back when the timing is right. 5. Randy Orton. Though not traditionally considered a Paul Heyman guy, Randy Orton's history with Heyman during the Evolution days adds an interesting wrinkle. Orton's impending return from injury has already generated speculation, and Survivor Series could be the perfect venue for the Viper to strike. Orton aligning with Heyman and CM Punk would be a shocking twist, especially considering his history with both men. Alternatively, Orton could return as a rival to Punk, setting up a feud that would carry WWE through WrestleMania season. Likelihood: high. Orton's return is all but confirmed. The question is how WWE will reintroduce him. The War Games factor. War Games matches are known for their unpredictability and star-studded lineups. Survivor Series 2024 promises to deliver a spectacle, with rumors suggesting that the Bloodline, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk will be central figures in the main event. Adding another Paul Heyman guy to the mix would elevate the stakes and provide fans with a jaw-dropping moment. Imagine the closing sequence of War Games. Punk is cornered, outnumbered by the Bloodline. Heyman, standing ringside, looks panicked. Then, out of nowhere, the music hits, and the arena erupts as Brock Lesnar, or another Heyman guy, storms the cage. The balance shifts, and chaos ensues. Heyman's role in the narrative. Paul Heyman's role as the wise man of the Bloodline has been pivotal in WWE's storytelling over the past few years. However, CM Punk's return has placed Heyman in an intriguing position. Can Heyman remain loyal to Roman Reigns while simultaneously managing Punk? Or will he pivot entirely and form a new alliance? Survivor Series, War Games provides the perfect platform for Heyman to showcase his loyalty or betrayal. If another Heyman guy were to return, it could spell trouble for the Bloodline's dominance and set the stage for WrestleMania season. Final thoughts: the return of CM Punk has reignited WWE's storytelling prowess, and the prospect of another Paul Heyman guy returning only adds fuel to the fire. Whether it's Brock Lesnar, Ryback, Cesaro, Samoa Joe, or even Randy Orton, the possibilities are endless. Survivor Series, War Games 2024 could be the moment WWE cements its status as the premier wrestling promotion by delivering another unforgettable surprise. One thing is certain, with Paul Heyman orchestrating the chaos, anything is possible. Fans will have to tune into Survivor Series to see if history repeats itself and another Heyman guy walks through the curtain to shock the world. CM Punk and Roman Reigns' intense exchange on WWE SmackDown. The roof blew off after CM Punk came to the rescue of Roman Reigns' team in the latest episode of WWE SmackDown. New footage from the show has surfaced online, revealing an intense conversation between the two megastars, seemingly planting seeds for a future showdown. The OG Bloodline, which consists of Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Jimmy Uso, reunited a few weeks ago. However, the babyface team lacked a fifth member for the men's War Games match against Solo Sikoa's Bloodline, which recently joined forces with Big Bronson Reed. During the November 22, 2024, installment of Friday Night SmackDown, the two factions came face to face. In a surprising turn of events, Paul Heyman returned to WWE TV and stated that Punk would be the final member of the OTC's team at Survivor Series, War Games. The Second City Saint and the OG Bloodline cleared the ring, forcing Sikoa's team to retreat. The Wiseman proudly watched from the ring apron as Roman Reigns and CM Punk joined forces. However, during their intense face-off, the original tribal chief questioned the best in the world's motives, asking, "Why are you here?" The straight-edge superstar responded by shifting the focus to Paul Heyman, stating, "It's not about me and you. It's about him." Roman Reigns claimed, "He's my Wiseman," to which Punk replied, "We'll see." Former WWE writer claims Roman Reigns buried everyone on both rosters during the latest SmackDown. Pro Wrestling veteran Vince Russo shared his thoughts on a backstage segment involving the OG Bloodline on last night's SmackDown. Before CM Punk returned to join the OTC's team ahead of the men's War Games match, the babyfaces were struggling to determine who could be the final member on their side. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes' names were thrown into the hat, but the former undisputed WWE Universal Champion straight up refused the idea. Speaking on an edition of Bro Down with Mac Davis, Vince Russo criticized WWE's creative team for a backstage segment in which Roman Reigns claimed no one was good enough to join the OG Bloodline, highlighting the negative impact of the statement on both the Raw and SmackDown rosters. When you've got the OG Bloodline sitting in the room, and it's the four of them, and they're agreeing that there's nobody else, you just buried both the rosters. You're telling me there's nobody on the SmackDown or Raw roster? That's what goes through my mind. If I'm writing that line for Roman Reigns, I'm gonna stop myself and say, "Bro, you just buried everybody on both rosters," he said. It remains to be seen whether the voice of the voiceless and the original tribal chief will be on the same page for the sake of Paul Heyman at the Survivor Series, War Games PLE. It was a night that had the WWE Universe buzzing long before the show even began. The social media teasers hinted at a confrontation that could shake the foundations of SmackDown. Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion and leader of the Bloodline, was set to address his empire's future. But whispers of CM Punk's presence at the arena had set fans on fire. A decade in the making, this clash of personalities and philosophies promised to be unforgettable. The Tribal Chief speaks. The Tribal Chief made his entrance first, flanked by Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa. The thunderous boos from the audience were interspersed with chants of Roman as he raised the Universal Championship high above his head. The Bloodline story had been one of dominance and betrayal, and tonight, Reigns seemed determined to remind everyone who was in control. "St. Louis, acknowledge me," Roman demanded, his voice booming over the crowd. The fans obliged, some with cheers, others with jeers. Roman smirked, soaking in the mixed reaction. For 3 years, I've been the head of this table. I've carried this company on my back. And while pretenders and part-timers try to steal the spotlight, I remain your tribal chief. The bloodline runs this business. Heyman nodded in agreement, clutching the microphone like it was a sacred artifact. Ladies and gentlemen, Roman Reigns is not just the champion of WWE. He is WWE. There isn't a man alive who can step into this ring and take him down. As Reigns handed the mic back to Heyman, the unmistakable sound of Cult of Personality hit. The crowd erupted into a deafening roar. CM Punk, the self-proclaimed best in the world, had arrived. The return of the voice of the voiceless walking down the ramp with his signature swagger, Punk looked every bit the disruptor he had always been. Dressed in his iconic hoodie and a smirk that could cut glass, he carried a microphone and a chip on his shoulder. Sliding into the ring, Punk locked eyes with Reigns, ignoring Heyman and Solo entirely. The tension was palpable. The crowd alternated between CM Punk, chants, and Roman sucks. Roman, 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 Punk began, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The head of the table, huh? The man who thinks he's untouchable. The guy who surrounds himself with yes-men and bodyguards because deep down, he knows he can't do it alone. The crowd gasped, feeding off Punk's audacity. You've done a great job, Roman, Punk continued, pacing the ring. You've built an empire. But empires fall. And the difference between you and me? I didn't need an empire to make my name. I did it with guts, determination, and a microphone. Reigns chuckled, unimpressed. That's cute, Punk. Real cute. But let me remind you of something, you left. You took your ball and went home. I've been here, grinding, proving I'm the best day in and day out. You're just a guy who talks a big game but can't back it up anymore. Verbal sparring turns personal. Punk's smile faded. I left because this place was rotten to the core. And you know what? It still is. But now, I'm back, not because I have something to prove, but because I'm tired of watching you prance around like you're untouchable. Roman, you're a manufactured champion. You're Paul Heyman's latest project. I'm the guy who put Paul Heyman on the map. Heyman's eyes widened as the jab hit home. Punk wasn't pulling any punches, and the crowd loved every second of it. Reigns stepped forward, closing the distance between them. You think you're better than me? Let's get one thing straight. I've beaten legends, icons, and everyone who's stepped up. You're no different. If you think you're gonna walk into my ring and take what's mine, you're in for a rude awakening. Punk leaned in, his voice a low growl. The difference between you and me, Roman, is that I fight for the people. You fight for yourself. And when I step into this ring, I don't need backup. I don't need family drama to stay relevant. I'll take you down one-on-one and expose you for the fraud you are. The threat of violence. The crowd was at a fever pitch as Punk and Reigns stood nose to nose. Solo Sikoa stepped forward, ready to defend his tribal chief, but Reigns held up a hand to stop him. You want to fight me, Punk? Roman asked, his voice steady. You don't get to just walk in here and demand a match with the tribal chief. You have to earn it. And quite frankly, you don't deserve it. Punk laughed. I don't deserve it. Roman, the only thing you've earned is a lesson in humility. And if you're too scared to give me that match, I'll find a way to take what's yours. I've got all night. Reigns raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. You don't scare me, Punk. But since you're so eager to lose, how about this, Survivor Series? Champion versus the so-called best in the world. I'll end your comeback before it even begins. The challenge sent shockwaves through the arena. Punk's grin widened. Survivor Series? Oh, Roman, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. The bloodline strikes before Punk could continue. Solo Sikoa blindsided him with a Samoan spike. The crowd erupted in boos as Punk hit the mat, clutching his throat. Roman stood over him, a sinister smile on his face. "You don't come into my ring and disrespect me," Roman growled. "Welcome back to WWE, Punk." Solo dragged Punk to his feet, but Punk fought back with a flurry of elbows and punches. The crowd exploded as Punk managed to knock Solo out of the ring with a roundhouse kick. Turning his attention back to Roman, Punk launched himself at the tribal chief, sparking an all-out brawl. Security swarmed the ring, struggling to separate the two. Punk and Reigns continued to hurl insults and punches, their hatred spilling over. The WWE Universe couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The aftermath as SmackDown went off the air, the image of Punk standing on the announcer's table, shouting at Roman while security held them apart, was etched into the fans' minds. Survivor Series was now a must-watch event, with the battle between CM Punk and Roman Reigns poised to be one of the greatest showdowns in WWE history. Backstage, chaos reigned as officials scrambled to regain control. Paul Heyman, visibly shaken, could be heard muttering about how this was all Punk's fault. Meanwhile, Reigns paced furiously, vowing to make Punk regret ever stepping back into his world. For Punk, the night wasn't about victory or defeat. It was about sending a message. And that message was clear: the voice of the voiceless was back, and he wasn't going anywhere. Paul Heyman breaks silence after Roman Reigns and CM Punk's epic face-off heading into WWE Survivor Series. War Games. Roman Reigns and CM Punk blew the roof off WWE SmackDown when Paul Heyman finally brought the Second City Saint to save the day against Sikoa's bloodline. Today, the Wiseman broke his silence and reacted after the epic face-off between the two sides. Earlier this month, Bronson Reed aligned with Solo Sikoa and agreed to become the final member of the latter's team at WWE Survivor Series, War Games. On the other hand, the OG Bloodline was a member short, and Seth Rollins rejected offers from both teams. On the latest edition of Friday Night SmackDown, Paul Heyman made a shocking return to the blue brand with CM Punk. The straight-edge superstar agreed to team up with the OG Bloodline and made a statement. Later, the Wiseman broke his silence after Roman Reigns and CM Punk's epic face-off in the ring ahead of the War Games match at Survivor Series. Paul Heyman was once CM Punk's counsel in WWE before Roman Reigns ascended to the top over a decade ago. CM Punk became a Paul Heyman guy and had one of the longest reigns in the Stamford-based promotion as the WWE champion. The pairing was one of the most successful in the company until the Second City Saint left the Stamford-based promotion. Last year, the best in the world returned to WWE and cut a promo on the Bloodline, including Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. The multi-time world champion reminded everyone that Heyman was his guy for a long time before the tribal chief came into power. Earlier this year, Paul Heyman reunited with his former client briefly on the blue brand. However, the tables were turned as the Wiseman was forced to work with Solo Sikoa's bloodline. The Hall of Famer had also asked Punk for a favor, but his ongoing program with Drew McIntyre stopped it from happening at the time. On the latest edition of Friday Night SmackDown, Paul Heyman got to call in his favor and announced the Second City Saint as the OG Bloodline's fifth and final member for Survivor Series, War Games in Canada. The tension in the air was palpable as the WWE Universe held its collective breath after the electric moment that shook the very foundation of the company. The confrontation that fans had been eagerly waiting for had finally arrived. Roman Reigns and CM Punk, two of the most controversial and dominant figures in WWE history, stood face-to-face in a showdown that could change the course of Survivor Series, War Games. The episode of SmackDown prior to Survivor Series had delivered an unforgettable spectacle. Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, had just made his way to the ring, accompanied by his bloodline, the Usos, and Solo Sikoa. The tribal chief was ready to address his people and reaffirm his reign over WWE, as he always did, commanding respect, enforcing dominance. However, the entrance of CM Punk had sent the WWE Universe into a frenzy. Punk, the former WWE champion, the voice of the voiceless, had returned in the most shocking of ways. The tension between Punk and Reigns had been simmering for weeks. The cutting words from Punk, targeting Reigns' reign, his lack of competition, and his dependency on the bloodline had stoked a fire that could no longer be ignored. Punk had come for the champion's throne, and there was no turning back. The face-off between Reigns and Punk on that fateful night was nothing short of electric. The crowd erupted as the two stared each other down, both men exuding an aura of superiority. Punk's words were sharp, attacking Roman's role as the head of the table, claiming that it was only a matter of time before he took his seat at the top once more. Roman, never one to back down from a challenge, had responded in kind, warning Punk that he was no longer the same man who had left WWE years ago. "I run this company now, Punk," Reigns had growled, his voice steady yet menacing. The tension escalated, but it was the arrival of Paul Heyman that truly set the WWE Universe alight. Heyman, the advocate for Reigns and a master of manipulation, had been a constant figure at Reigns' side since he claimed the Universal Championship. His silence following Punk's challenge was deafening, and the speculation surrounding his next move reached a boiling point. That night, after Punk's challenge had been issued and the tension between the two men was palpable, Paul Heyman had stood at the top of the ramp, watching the scene unfold. His expression unreadable, a faint smirk playing at the corners of his lips, Heyman had finally raised his microphone to speak. But he had not spoken of Roman Reigns. No, instead, he had something far more personal and far more dangerous to say. "Roman," Heyman began, his voice smooth yet dripping with a venomous undertone. "I've been quiet for far too long, and it's time for the world to understand exactly why I chose to represent you, and why you will never, ever lose that title to someone like CM Punk." The words hung in the air as the crowd reacted in anticipation. Roman Reigns stood with his arms crossed, his eyes focused on the mic in Heyman's hands. The time for games was over. Heyman, however, wasn't here for games. "You see," Heyman continued, "there's a reason why I have been the greatest advocate in the history of this business. I have worked with legends, icons, and champions, but none of them understand the business like Roman does. CM Punk. CM Punk was a flash in the pan. A relic of a bygone era. His time is over." The crowd reacted with a mix of cheers and boos, divided between the cult following of Punk and the undeniable dominance of Reigns. Heyman smirked, feeding off the energy, as he paced across the stage like a master manipulator. "Punk's return is nothing more than a self-serving ego trip," Heyman declared, his eyes narrowing. "He claims to have all the answers, but in reality, he has only one. How do I insert myself into the conversation of greatness? How do I ensure that my name is still relevant in a company that's evolved beyond him?" The audience was now hanging on every word, as Heyman's cutting commentary stripped away any illusion of Punk's return as a noble comeback. "You want to talk about competition, Punk?" Heyman said, his voice now more intense, cutting through the arena. "You want to talk about how Roman needs competition? Roman Reigns is not looking for competition, Punk. Roman Reigns is looking for respect. And what you, and every other so-called top star, fail to realize is that respect is something you earn. It's not something you demand." The tension between Reigns and Punk seemed to escalate further, but it was Heyman's next words that truly set the stage for Survivor Series War Games. "Roman Reigns has beaten the best. He's beaten the legends, the Hall of Famers, the future of this business. And now, at Survivor Series, he will face the ultimate test, because you're not just fighting him, Punk. You're fighting everything he represents. You're fighting the future. You're fighting the man who runs this company. You're fighting a champion who is not afraid to hold onto his throne, no matter who you are or how loud you scream for attention. And when the dust settles at War Games, the world will remember why Roman Reigns is the tribal chief. Why he is the head of this table. And why CM Punk will go down as nothing more than a failed experiment." The crowd exploded, a mixture of excitement, shock, and disbelief echoing through the arena. Heyman had spoken with an authority that only he could muster, casting aside any lingering doubts about Roman Reigns' status as the undisputed champion. The camera cut to Reigns, who finally stepped forward, his jaw clenched but his eyes focused. The tribal chief was calm, calculated, but there was a fire burning within him. He knew that at Survivor Series, his match with CM Punk would not only be a test of physicality, but a battle for the very soul of WWE. Backstage, Paul Heyman sat in front of a camera after the show, his expression more serious than before. His words, however, were not aimed at the WWE Universe this time, but at one person, and one person only. "The message has been sent," he began, his voice cold and deliberate. "Roman Reigns doesn't need to say anything more. What he's done, what I've done, has been done. CM Punk will face his reckoning, and there is no one who can save him from what's coming. At Survivor Series, War Games, the world will see exactly why Roman Reigns is the only choice to be the face of this company. CM Punk, he's the past. Roman Reigns? He is the future. And trust me when I say, the future is now." Heyman's words echoed through the WWE Universe, leaving fans with one burning question: would CM Punk be able to prove himself as a worthy challenger, or would Roman Reigns continue his reign unchallenged? The stage was set, and Survivor Series was going to be more than just a match. It would be the ultimate declaration of dominance. For Easter eggs you missed during CM Punk and Paul Heyman's return on WWE SmackDown. WWE Friday Night SmackDown was a massive show last night. Numerous big angles played out in exciting ways, a title match was featured, and the ongoing Women's United States Championship tournament continued. The show also featured two big returns. The first was Paul Heyman, who then introduced the returning CM Punk. This shocked fans, especially because it meant that Punk was now representing the OG bloodline at Survivor Series War Games. The segment saw Punk run to the ring and fight off the new bloodline alongside the Usos, Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns. From there, Roman and Punk had a tense stare-down. The segment was perfect. As great as the segment was, there may be bits that some fans might have missed if they didn't watch closely or hadn't followed the product. This article will look at several Easter eggs from the segment you absolutely must know. Below are 4 Easter eggs you missed during CM Punk and Paul Heyman's return on WWE SmackDown. 4. CM Punk said he was doing it for Paul Heyman. Perhaps the most obvious Easter egg from CM Punk's return came when he went face-to-face with Roman Reigns. The two WWE legends had quite the stare-down and even a brief conversation after the fighting stopped. During the conversation, CM Punk made a very interesting point. He noted that his return, what he was doing, was for WWE Hall of Famer Paul Heyman and not for Roman Reigns nor presumably the rest of the OG bloodline. Punk making this point adds tension between the two and could set up a future big match down the road. If Punk and Roman Reigns are both fighting over Heyman, who would Paul side with? Would one of them happily cut him loose otherwise? There is a lot of intrigue there. 3. Paul Heyman winked at Jimmy Uso. As for something much more subtle, an interesting interaction happened in the final seconds of the WWE Friday Night SmackDown broadcast. As Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso joined Roman and Punk in the ring, Heyman made a surprising gesture. Jimmy looked over at the Wiseman and Paul Heyman winked at Uso. That was the whole interaction, Jimmy Uso looking over at Paul and the WWE Hall of Famer winking at him. While that isn't much to go off of, there is a chance it could mean something major. Could Heyman and Jimmy be in cahoots in some way? Could this mean the two are planning to betray Roman? Alternatively, this could be a big nothing burger and it was simply a friendly reaction to say, "I have you covered." For now, it could go in either direction. 2. Heyman was wearing an outfit similar to what Solo Sikoa had worn. A more on-the-surface Easter egg from WWE SmackDown involves Paul Heyman's visual appearance. At first glance, fans might think Paul looked healthy and even happier than he has in quite a while, likely thanks to being free from Solo Sikoa and the new bloodline. With that being said, his outfit has raised some brows. Paul Heyman wore an oversized suit jacket over a red shirt. Not only that, but the former manager of Brock Lesnar even had red in his jacket pocket. This could mean a few different things. Fans could see it as Paul Heyman repping the colors of the OG bloodline. Their new WWE shirt has red on it. Alternatively, this looks almost identical to how Solo Sikoa was dressing, the red shirt included. Could this be signaling his allegiance to Sikoa? 1. Paul had previously asked CM Punk to take the WWE Hall of Famer with him. This entry is less blatant and more related to the lore that led up to the shocker at WWE Friday Night SmackDown last night. While some were rightfully caught off guard by the booking decision, there are reasons months in the making for it happening. Obviously, the relationship between CM Punk and Paul Heyman goes back almost 2 decades. More importantly, however, the two had a segment together on the June 21st episode of WWE SmackDown. At the time, Heyman was still united with Solo Sikoa's version of the Bloodline. Punk and Heyman hugged in the middle of the ring, reuniting for the first time since the voice of the voiceless returned. Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa quickly showed up, and this led to a tense confrontation and almost led to physicality. During the segment, Heyman pleaded with Punk to take the Hall of Famer with him. Punk didn't, which led to Paul being brutally assaulted days afterward and put through a table. Punk and Heyman being together last night is correcting past mistakes. WWE SmackDown is often the stage for monumental moments, but when two iconic figures like CM Punk and Paul Heyman made their return on the blue brand, fans knew they were in for something unforgettable. From subtle references to their storied past to hints about potential future rivalries, the return of Punk and Heyman was not just a moment of shock, it was a treasure trove of Easter eggs. Whether you're a longtime fan of the two legends or someone who's just tuning in, there were several hidden details you might have missed. Let's break down 4 key Easter eggs from this historic SmackDown return. 1. The Voice of the Voiceless t-shirt nod. CM Punk made a big splash with his reappearance, but one of the most subtle nods to his past was the t-shirt he wore. Fans who know Punk's history will remember that his Voice of the Voiceless slogan became a hallmark of his persona during his initial rise to fame in WWE. On the return episode of SmackDown, Punk sported a custom Voiceless shirt, but it was cleverly altered to feature a faded image of him holding the WWE Championship. This wasn't just a shout-out to Punk's iconic era, it was a visual reminder of the man who once held the company on his shoulders as one of the most controversial and outspoken champions in recent memory. The shirt also wasn't just a throwback, it served as an Easter egg to the possibility that Punk could soon be aligned with a major faction or maybe even challenged for a title once again. The faded image of him with the title was a clue that his journey might be headed back to championship gold, and the voiceless phrase reminded fans that he's still the same Punk who's willing to speak up and stir the pot. 2. Paul Heyman's unspoken reference to the pipe bomb promo. Paul Heyman is never one to shy away from a historical reference, and his interactions with CM Punk on SmackDown were no exception. While the focus was largely on their current dynamic, Heyman made a subtle reference to one of the most pivotal moments in WWE history, Punk's infamous pipe bomb promo from 2011. When Heyman first addressed Punk, there was a brief moment where he mentioned, "You always had a voice, Punk, but it was the one that no one wanted to hear, and you made them listen." For die-hard fans, this was a direct callback to the pipe bomb promo, where Punk famously broke the fourth wall and aired his grievances about the company, the fans, and his career. That promo changed the landscape of WWE and was an iconic moment in Punk's career. Heyman's words during this segment were an Easter egg, subtly acknowledging the promo's significance in their shared history, and setting up the idea that Punk's return could bring about another seismic shift in WWE, just like the pipe bomb did years ago. 3. The Shield fist bump tease. The Shield reunion has been a topic of speculation for years, especially with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, all finding success as singles competitors. However, fans were quick to pick up on a possible subtle Easter egg during the interaction between Paul Heyman and CM Punk on SmackDown. As Heyman offered his hand to Punk in a gesture of reconciliation, there was a brief moment where Punk extended his hand, then paused and pulled back. This could easily be seen as a simple hesitation, but for fans who have followed the dynamics between Heyman and Punk closely, it felt eerily similar to a moment from the past, a tease of a potential reunion. but one that comes with hesitation, mirroring how the Shield teased reunions in the past before delivering the real deal. The fist bump between the three members of the Shield had become iconic, representing unity and brotherhood in the midst of chaos. This brief but significant pause could indicate that something similar is in the cards for Heyman and Punk, but only time will tell if it's the beginning of a long-term partnership or just a brief flirtation with history. If this is a long-term storyline, expect more references to the Shield and its ties to Heyman's influence, suggesting that Punk could one day align with or challenge the members of the faction. 4. The mention of the best in the world in the promo. When CM Punk finally addressed the WWE Universe on SmackDown, he didn't waste any time asserting his dominance, but he also included an Easter egg that was somewhat hidden in plain sight. Punk referred to himself as the best in the world, a phrase that has been synonymous with his career. However, the way he said it wasn't just a boast, it was a subtle way of acknowledging his return to prominence in the eyes of the WWE Universe. This was more than a mere catchphrase, it was a meta-commentary on Punk's return to a place where he once dominated. But here's the Easter egg. Punk's reference to the best in the world was delivered with a certain gravitas, almost as if he were taking a shot at another best in the world in the form of Roman Reigns, who has been running the company as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion for years. This was a nod to their inevitable clash. Punk may have been positioning himself as not just a return to prominence, but as a future challenger to Reigns' throne. The phrase wasn't just a call to remember Punk's past, it was a quiet acknowledgement that he's back to make waves, and the champion at the top of the mountain might just be in his sights. In retrospect, Punk's words weren't simply meant to hype the audience, they were laying the groundwork for a long-running storyline. Whether or not fans caught this subtle dig, it was a calculated move to remind everyone that Punk is still operating on a level of his own, and he's ready to remind WWE's top stars that no one is safe. For those who missed it, this was a definitive Easter egg hinting at a showdown down the line. Conclusion: when CM Punk and Paul Heyman made their return on WWE SmackDown, it was much more than just a shock return. It was a treasure chest of Easter eggs and hidden references that teased future storylines, subtle nods to the past, and possible rivalries to come. From the voice of the voiceless shirt to the sly reference to Punk's past with Heyman, WWE fans were treated to a masterclass in storytelling and subtlety. Each Easter egg was a breadcrumb leading the audience towards something bigger, potentially setting the stage for a clash of titans or even a new partnership with ramifications for the WWE landscape. As always, Punk and Heyman know how to keep fans on their toes, and this return was no exception.